Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're doing something no one has ever in the history of the world done, and that is, where is it? Making a tier list of Resident Evil games I have played. I know. I'm a genius for coming up with this idea that no one has ever done. So, I made a somewhat kind of sort of script, and pretty much I'm gonna go over every game, Resident Evil game that I've played, and give it a ranking. You know, do what I thought was good about it, what I thought was bad, how scary it was of a horror game, so on and so forth. Let me real quick bring up that script that I worked so hard on and did not come up with 5 minutes ago. So we're gonna do it chronologically, not of release, because I'm not caring enough to look up when these games came out. Starting off, Resident Evil 0. I'd say overall, good B rating. Right there in the middle. Start off strong. It was an alright game. It was decent. No major complaints except for the tons that I'm gonna list here soon. Starting off with the pros, it was a challenging game. I think that's a pro. You know, it had some oomph to it. The enemies weren't one shots, and they also, until later in the game, weren't bullet sponges. Pretty much if you aimed for the head, you were good. I enjoyed that you could drop items on the ground, which was different from Resident Evil 1, where if you were out of inventory, you could be like, oh, you know what? I don't need these 4 ink ribbons at the moment. And then you could go back and recollect that item if needed. I thought that was cool. I also enjoyed the character swap mechanic between Rebecca and sorry, I'm learning how to spell. That's not what I typed at all. Oh, I did. I did ReZero. Hold on. There we go. Billy Cohen. My bad. Between Rebecca and Billy. I thought that like being able to swap between them, and then like I found it out later in the game when I played, I think, but that you could like move one character and the other with like the different joysticks. I thought that was awesome. I thought having that like 2 character control, also my cat's meowing, without having it be like just different segments of the game. I thought that was great. Give me 1 second. Yes. Can I help you? You wanna come cuddle? Or come sit on my lap while I stream? Do you wanna judge video games with Pop Pop? Alright. He's just staring at me. Anyways, I thought those were great mechanics. Also, I need to edit my title. Jesus. Doing something. There we go. Oh. I had a little cough there. Now the cons. The cons are going to be great with this one. In the sense that there's a lot. Unclear progression. That's what I've written down. Pretty much as you're playing the game, you're getting all these items, and it doesn't tell you directly like where you need to go, where they need to go, which in a way I like. In a way, this is a con, but it's kind of like a pro and a con, because it makes you think, and it's not just like hand holding, like, oh, I got a key. This key looks like it goes in the art room, you know. But it sucks when you get all these different items. You have an inventory of, I think, like 9 spaces, some 6 maybe in Resident Evil 0 per character. And so you drop off all these items. What I did is I drop off all these items in one room, and that would be kind of like the supply chest. And then you finally get an item, and you're like, oh man, now I need to like look at the floor at all these things that I have and see what might go with it. And that sucked. This next one, which is a huge complaint that I have, kind of goes along with that, is backtracking. And especially at the end of the game, I needed Rebecca to make something using a green chemical and a red chemical, or green and blue, whatever it was, something like that, red and blue. The chemical I needed was all the way back in the beginning, and I was supposed to have grabbed it, not knowing that I was supposed to have grabbed it because of unclear progression. Because it was just like a cylinder in the corner. Dude, what? Come here. Stop meowing. You're being loud. You know where I am. Okay. And what I could have done, because I'm trying, again, this is like almost a year ago, I feel like. But it was like one person had to go up and one person had to stay on the other floor, and you couldn't like switch back and forth. And so what I had to do, because I did not send Rebecca up, is go all the way to the beginning of the game to get a green chemical, instead of sending her up where the green chemical already was. And so you pretty much had to backtrack through like 2 segments of the game, because it was like you have the initial, I guess there was the train section, and then you had the mansion section, and then you had the lab section, and then you had like the church section or whatever, and you had to go through the lab into the mansion to get, like, it was so much backtracking because it didn't clearly state like, hey, you should probably get this before moving on. And which is like, you know, because I think it as well, because this is one where I actually had to look up what to do because it was so far back, where you found in that room, it was like a little doctor's office or whatever. You find a note that's like, if you mix a green and a red, you get this. If you mix a blue and a green, and you get this. If you mix this and this, you get this. And I thought it was talking about herbs, because green and red and blue is what herbs there are. And then next to that note in the corner was a green canister that you could fill up using Rebecca's med kit that it never explained you could do. Like, I don't think there was a part, and unless I missed it, where Rebecca was like, I can gather chemicals with if they're in a canister, I can gather the chemical. never explained. And so that was a part that like really irritated me about this game. Somewhat forgettable characters. I have to blow my nose. Give me a second. Somewhat forgettable characters. As you saw, I just had to look up the name of the dude. I don't think Rebecca's forgettable. But there were just like I can't remember a single character besides Rebecca and Billy. Oh no, that's not true. Who was it? The main villain was like Sephiroth, and then he turned into Venom or something. I don't remember, but that's what I mean. It was very like the characters were there. I don't think they hold. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Give me a sec. The characters were just there. That's it. I mean, it was what it was. I'm sliding around. I think it was like, oh, Wesker killed this guy because they wanted him to. So, what do I have next? Some puzzles made no sense. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Hello, cat. Alright. But I do remember there being some puzzles where I was like, alright, I guess. You know, like I kind of just had to guess and... Dude, why are you immediately tangled in my headphones? What are your opinions on Resident Evil Zero, cat? What are your opinions? Those are good opinions. All right. And then the fear level in this game was just It was. I don't think there was really... Dude, stop tangling up. I don't think there's really any part where I was like, I'm so scared at this moment in time. You know, it just was. Maybe if I was like younger, I would have been more scared. I would have been like, whoa, those slugs are turning into people or going down people's throats and possess. I don't know. What else do I have? Oh, I have extra notes. Funny voice acting. There was a lot of moments that I enjoyed because the voice acting was just one very late 90s and also like it sounded like I forget the word where they speak like phonetically, like they don't know the language but the way they're speaking is like, but because I still quote it in games that I'm playing where the guy came up and was like, Rebecca, we have to escape now, and she's like, hold on, Billy's still here, I have to go find Billy, and he's like, okay, meet me here in whatever. And then she goes, okay, I'll see you soon. And I never saw him again. Like, it was just like immediately like, all right, well, we don't even have to worry if he's dead or alive. He died. Which I think that was the guy that died in Resident Evil 1, so we were supposed to know that. But it was just like, I never saw him again. And then you did have like Billy try to be like super cool, where he's like, yeah, I know I'm wanted for the count of 26 murders, but it was because the people I murdered deserved it. And Rebecca's like, oh wow, this guy's super handsome now. Yeah, just the funny, like, Rebecca, Billy, is that you? You know, just like the like very weird emotion. Would I replay? Probably. I'd probably, honestly, like every Resident Evil game I've played, I'd probably play again. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I'd probably enjoy Resident Evil 0 a second time because I'd know what the puzzles are. And so I'd be less infuriated of being like, oh, what do I have to do? Yeah, it's my ranking for that. Resident Evil, moving on. Resident Evil 1. Ooh. Probably A. I'd probably put it a step up, step higher. It was good. I enjoyed it. Pros, it was the beginning of an era. I wrote that down, and I think that's true. Like, this was like, to my knowledge at least, I think it was like the first survival horror game. Like, everything that survival horror was because of this game. So like this, I mean, that in itself deserves its own right. The ambience design, like the environment, was great. Just, you know, spooky haunted house with you know, graveyard outside, and then you have the little lab cabin area. Just great aesthetics to it to make it like this haunted house. I'm gonna move my phone closer because I'm blind as hell. Iconic characters. I mean, Chris has been throughout the entire series, so that's already one. Then you have Jill, who was in most of the series, and then they made her a blonde, mind-controlled girl in 5. You know, you have Barry, you have all these just like iconic characters. And the puzzles were enjoyable. That's another one. But like, I feel like Resident Evil 0, the puzzles were like tedious, or you had to go back and do all this different stuff. It wasn't so much the case for Resident Evil 1. I feel like 1, you still had to, but it made more sense. I do think it still is in line with 0, where it had unclear progression. You know, like there's still moments where you're like, all right, I have this, what do I do now? Where do I go now? How do I do this? Where do I get this? And so some of that was just like, I think because it is like a maze, you're like, all right, is it this room? No. Is it this room? No. Is it this room? No. All right, I have to go through this to get to this room. I have to go this way to get to this room. Very just like, it ends up being tedious more than it does being confusing. I did like I think this was added to the remasters, like was it the red faces or red skulls, red heads, what we call them, where if you don't burn or like decapitate a zombie, that they'll come back stronger and more aggressive. I enjoyed that because it wasn't just like, all right, kill and you're good. I'm trying to think what else. The item management. I think Chris has 6 items. Jill has 9. I think that's how it was, or 8. I did not like the fact that you couldn't drop items, that you had to go and put it in a safe chest. I kind of get it, especially like Resident Evil 1 came first before 0, so that was probably added for a reason. But uh to have like to have to go back and drop all these items off and then go back, grab the items you need. I mean, there were times where you're like, I can only have like a knife because I can't have the gun and the ammo, and then I have to grab these 3 items, and then there's a 4th item that I'm gonna need to grab. Or you're like, I have to have this gun and 3 bullets because that's all I can carry for the inventory to defend myself against where I'm going. So that was annoying. And then there'd also be times where like you'd combine items and do this, and then you'd cats moving around, and then you'd sorry, I lost my train of thought. You'd combine items, use the items, do all this, and then you'd get so many items back that your inventory would fill up right away. And so you couldn't pick anything up for a majority of the game without having to drop everything off. I feel like this would also be a game that would be more enjoyable on the second playthrough, because I would kind of be like, okay, I need to get this, this, and this, so I need to prepare for not having, or for having inventory space open for this and this, which I know I'm going to get. So that was kind of annoying. And this game had the same thing with the voice acting, where it was just like, obviously the original was a bit different, where, you know, you had the iconic lines of like, since you're the master of unlocking, and you were almost a Jill sandwich. Where this one was a bit better, but still had that, you know, Chris just being like, Wesker, what are you doing here in the secret evil lab? You know, whatever it was. Where it just didn't feel like it just felt like they were speaking phonetically. I think it's majority of what I have written for 1. We're actually cruising by this pretty quick. I was kind of expecting to spend a bit more time on each one, but I mean, 1 was all right. Again, I would probably play it again. I enjoyed it more than 0. Fear level was somewhat. I remember when I was a kid, I stopped playing it because it scared me too much. This is like 8 years old. So playing it as an adult, it's obviously different, and it's kind of just, yeah, that was all right. You know, it had its moments. I think most of it was like a creep factor of where you're like walking through the halls and it's just is. Oh, it's actually another thing for both of these games was the locked camera angle, or the fixed camera angle. It was good at some parts, but that goes in line of what I was saying earlier with 0, where you have the fixed camera angle and it doesn't always show you everything. Like, you have to go into the corners and like just mash the A button to try and pick something up. And when you get to that point, like, I think with the green chemical, yeah, with the green chemical, when you would walk into that angle, your character or a zombie or something was blocking it. And that's why initially when I went into that room, I didn't see it. And when I went back to that room, I saw it right away because they were gone, or I killed them, whatever it was. So the fixed camera angle, it was cool where it could like, it helped to kind of show the intensity of scenes and kind of do like the fear of the unknown. So you don't know what's around the corner and you can't look what's around the corner. It was clever in that way, but it made difficulties in other ways. Yeah, but would I put that at A? Yeah, I'd say it's a good rating. Resident Evil 2 remake. I never played the original. Probably won't. Sue me. That is going S rank. 100%. This was probably one of, if not the best of the series for me. Let me see here. So pros, obviously it had like great improvement over the original graphically, and like voice actors, and just modern made. I think it did well in not trying to like spend most of the time with that. Again, I never played the original, but oh man, sorry. Ooh. Oh, we got a ad break in 5 minutes. But it was just a really good, just graphics, voice acting, all of that, performance was great. And then I feel like with it taking away the fixed camera angles, it really did improve by just making tighter spaces, and having the camera like fixed really close in third person. I thought was a great idea. And just having that like that fear of what is around this corner, what's going to be through this door, what's like, you really still didn't know. Even though it wasn't like a fixed camera angle before, it was like a very close fix on third person. And then having Mr. X follow you throughout the, I think, majority of the game. I think there were only a few segments where you weren't being followed. I think they did a great job at making him terrifying. I think one of the few times I jumped was when he like busted through the wall. And I was like hearing his footsteps, and I was trying to track where he was and where he was going. For that scene to play out was smart. It was very well done. I think the puzzles were fun, and you had a lot more of like the you know, like, oh, it's the lion coin, it's the sheep coin, whatever it was. Okay. I thought that was it was fun, and it didn't seem tedious. I also don't think inventory became as much of an issue. I know it added like you could get like what, a hip pack or whatever it was to add more space. But it added enough in the beginning to where it didn't feel like, it felt like you still had to manage it, but you didn't have to just like only have one thing in your inventory and then backtrack a ton, collect a bunch of stuff, go back to a chest, drop it off, go back, collect a bunch of stuff. It didn't really feel like that. There were moments like that, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't as bad as like 1 or 0. And the backtracking was just less of a pain, and more of like a, okay, I can leave this herb behind, I can leave these bullets behind, I can leave this behind, and I'll come back through later on when I've kind of done all the puzzles. I thought I was gonna sneeze. And then I do like the games that have more of the zombie enemies. I think as the series goes, it becomes less of a zombie game and more of like a mutant game. Especially with like, I'd say even like 4 onwards. Like you had Tyrant in 1, and I think Prototype Tyrant in 0, and then you had Mr. X in 2. So you had the kind of like mutations, but I do enjoy like the more zombie ones, which is why another reason I'm excited for Requiem is they are pretty much back to the zombies, and it's back in Raccoon City and all that. For cons, the only one I've really written down is that when you do like Leon A and then you play Claire B is almost exactly the same, but like 4 hours shorter. It's like a very short segment, and you're pretty much just doing like the highlights of Leon A, with a few differences here and there, where you're helping out Sherry in the orphanage. And so that's kind of the only like major difference. But besides that, I mean, I didn't like that you could kind of lock yourself out from a segment. So you do the police station, and then I think once you get into the sewers, you're locked out of the police station. Then once you get to the lab, you're locked out of the sewers. I could be wrong. I could be mistaken. But I like being able to fully explore areas of games, and like even when I finish the game, being able to go back and completely kind of get everything in one run. I'm doing too much talking. My throat's getting scratchy. I think the fear level for Resident Evil 2 was pretty much like as intended. Like I was pretty much as scared. Oh, ad starting. I was pretty much as scared as I should have been. Like I don't think there's a ton of moments where I was like, this is the creepiest part of the game, and a few moments where I was just like, all right, excuse me, coming through. Which I think make good content as a streamer, of just seeing a zombie and being like, oh, my bad, excuse me, let me just squeeze by you. Oh, right by you. I think that's great, and I'm probably gonna be doing that in 9 a ton. I'm just like, excuse me, sir, let me get right by you. But I think overall, I mean, Resident Evil 2 was probably my favorite. I'm trying to think. 7 and 8 were great. I mean, we'll get to all those obviously, but there's not really a lot of bad things I can say about 2. There's, I mean, it's kind of like they did a really good job at making it make sense for what the safe areas were, and for what like the crowded zombie areas were. And I'm trying to just think right now of like the bad parts of the game, but there's not a part that I remember personally going, oh, I hated that part. I never want to do that part again. If I replay it, I don't want to play that part. I can't really think of a part like that. Because even like Sherry and Ada's parts where you play and you don't have it, they're all right. They're not horrible to play. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it obviously once you like start getting your supplies together, you start getting more hip packs, more ammo, upgraded guns, all that. It's less scary. But I think that's going to be any survival horror game. Once you like start doing the right thing and getting yourself in order, there's not really a scary section when you're loaded to the brim with guns, you know. And I've always been under the mindset of like, if I can kill something, I can't be scared of it, you know. I like why would I be scared of something I can shoot off with a shotgun? uh, yeah, so that's, I think, for the most part, I think that's all I have for Resident Evil 2. I will say something. I didn't quite understand Sherry's mother's motive. It was kind of like, we're geniuses, we're making the next big thing. But also, it's like, that's your daughter, you know? And I get like the whole like, oh, my work is far more important than my family, I'm the bad guy. But it was just like, your husband's dead, everyone's after you, the city's being overrun by zombies. Maybe just find your daughter so that she doesn't die. So I'd say that's probably a con of just like a weird motive. But moving past that, Resident Evil 3, it's between A and B. I'll give it an A. It was a decent game. I'll start off with this. My biggest complaint: it was way too short. Resident Evil 3 felt like the same length of like Claire B, where it was like you were just doing the highlights of the game and you weren't like doing the meat of it. But the pros, I'll start off with, great characters. The Jill was great, obviously, attractive woman. What more do you need? Carlos was a cool dude. Like, he was just like, man, this chick's hot, I'm gonna help her out, and I respect that. His boy, I forget his name, was like T-Bone or whatever. Also a great guy. I thought he was gonna betray me at the end. I remember, I think even streaming it, I was like, I cannot wait for this guy to betray me. He's gonna be like, we gotta do what's best for the team, not for these people on the streets. We don't care about those. But no, he gave his life for us. Like, he did self-sacrifice. T-Bone's great, or whatever his name was. But and then even the villains were kind of just like, their motives were still meh. I don't think Resident Evil really has any great villain motives because they're all just insane people. But the villains' motives were just like, somebody paid me a bunch of money to do it. What more do you want? And I'm like, all right, I respect it, Russian man. It's like, my loyalty goes to highest bidder. Okay, you know what? Probably the most clear motive any Resident Evil villain has had. I respect it. And even like the bad guy, when he died, he was still dying a good guy, and it was the other guy that was bad the whole time. Let me see. There was a feeling of like actual danger. In that, like, you're playing the game and eventually you find out like it's gonna be nuked, and so you're just going through it, and you're just kind of like, there is a sense of like, you know, you don't have the main characters, you know, like Chris and Leon felt like they were like the Resident Evil stars, and even though Jill is in one as well, and you still, you know, obviously you weren't thinking, oh, I'm the main character, I'm gonna die. There was still that sense that like there was danger, there was urgency. Especially the scene where like you have to hold down the, was it hospital as Carlos, and get the like antidote for Jill. So there was actually like a sense of like, it wasn't just, oh, there's zombies everywhere, I have to get out of here. Apologies, like I say, I'm talking too much. But the fact that Jill gets a little bit infected, It was cool. What else did I write? Interesting story. Despite it being short, it was like, you know, you're playing as Jill, who has like PTSD from the first game, and she's like, I'm about to leave because I don't want to be a STARS member anymore. And then you're hunted down by Nemesis. All this different stuff happens. Like, it's interesting, and the way it plays out is good. I think it's a good story. And I liked how it kind of coincided with Resident Evil 2, where there's this section where you're playing as Carlos going through the police department, and then as you play as Leon in Resident Evil 2, you're kind of following in that footstep of like what Carlos did, or maybe it was vice versa. I can't remember. Where like one of them blows up a hole in the wall, and then I think Carlos blows up the hole in the wall, and then Leon, when you get there, the hole is there. And then like Carlos looks and he sees the welcome Leon sign, and he's like, "Oh, I bet you had a killer first day," which he did not. But I thought that was cool that it kind of had that connection to it. And that it kind of also made sense for the story. Like I said, like Carlos had to get through that wall, and then you play as Leon, and you're like, wonder what happened here. Thought it was great. Going to the cons, I already talked about how short the game was. Yeah, it could have been longer. From what I've heard, the original was way longer. Like there was a clock tower scene or part and all this other stuff. Which let me see real quick. I might have the game on GameCube. I do not. I have 0, 1, and 4. So, but that's something that I wouldn't mind. Like, I'd probably get that game and play it. I think the game's like $150 because it's considered a classic, and people love money. Nemesis. I wasn't a huge fan of Nemesis as like a stalker character. Because you had Mr. X, who was just this like really big, tough dude. But Nemesis, eventually, like, there were parts that just got annoying. There were some parts that were good, but those were the parts where you were like indoors and it was like the sharp corners and all that. When you're outside, he jumps in front of you, you turn away, he pulls you back with his like tongue arm leash thing, whatever it was, and then you run another direction, he jumps in front of you. It's just like, all right, we get it, you're cool and you're the best hunter there is. I want to actually play this game. So it becomes more annoying than it does anything else. I think that was my biggest issue with Nemesis, is just like the amount of times you're just like, I'm more annoyed now, and not in like the fun, oh, let me try and figure this out way. Annoyed in the way that I just want to play the game, and this is preventing me from playing the game, you know? Let me see here. It felt rushed. I wrote that down. I think I mean that more in the sense of like the content that was cut. I feel like this, I could be wrong, I feel like this is the game that was coming out before the Resident Evil 4 remake, which is what they spent a ton of time on. And so this one, they're like, we just need to get this out. And so they're like, let's cut this part, let's cut this part, let's cut this part. We'll have this part, this part, this part. We'll change this, and just get it out. And so it's still a good game, still a good story, good characters, all that. But it felt rushed in the sense of like what they wanted to be in the game. Oh, excuse me. but it was, like I said, it's A rank. I definitely play it again. I'd say the only part, like, I remember there was that part, I think it got like people got upset about it, but where you got like forced to, I guess, force impregnated by the spider egg things, where it like shoved a tube down your throat and put eggs in your stomach, and you're kind of like, all right, this is definitely the writer's like barely hidden kink, you know, like barely hidden fetish. It was just odd, and I think there were a lot of parts, though. I think there's a lot of like lore in this one about like what these mutants were actually doing. So I remember something about like when you're in the hospital, there's something to do with pregnant women. I couldn't remember. I can't remember. But it was one of those things where I remember reading and being like, damn. I think that was this game. I could be thinking of another one. But a lot of weird like lore pieces where it was like, I don't think that was necessary to the lore of this creature. But you do you, I guess. But yeah, I'd say that was a weird part, is you just walking into a fenced area and then being like, oh, I'm being force impregnated right now. Okay, I guess. But yeah, it was an alright game. I wish it was longer. Just like what most women say to me, I wish it was longer. I wish there was more. But it is what it is. I enjoyed it enough. I'll give it an A rank. And we'll move on. Resident Evil 4 remake. So with this one, it's between S and A. S rank, A rank. Talking about being force impregnated. I want to give it S rank. Just because, one, a little bit of nostalgia, because I did play the original Resident Evil 4. And so it's a little biased with this opinion. But so the pros, obviously, Leon. Now with the con, I think it was an improvement of the original. I remember reading a lot of stuff, like the original used, so it takes place in Spain, I want to say, part of Spain, and the Spanish used in the original was like the wrong Spanish used, so they got some flack for that. I think in this one they changed it to the proper what it would have been. The location was great. It's in, Spain, but it's just this village. You have these cliff sides, you have this old castle manor, and then you have the island. You kind of have everything a Resident Evil game has. This one did have a lot of like meat on the bones. You had a lot of extra content you could do. I know it had like the like mini boss monsters you could fight for rewards. It had all the side missions you could do for the shopkeeper. Majority of the enemies, it did kind of feel like they were just people. But it did have some cool enemies. You had like the wolves, you had the fish monster. You did have like the cultists, zombified. It was all right. And then the puzzles were, very interesting, very cool. You had the, especially I feel like the castle part had a lot of puzzles. I feel like the village, you kind of like get introduced to what's going on. You get introduced to the enemies, and then you kind of go through it. When you get to the castle, that's kind of like where the puzzles kick in, and you kind of have to figure things out to progress. And then the island is just action. You did have a threat of danger, same with Resident Evil 3, where Ashley gets kidnapped, she gets infected, she gets kind of like possessed and has to you kind of have like that scene where she's like fighting you and all that, and then you get infected as well. And so it has that threat of danger of like, Ashley is a new character, she might not make it out of this. Leon, he's gonna make it out of it. Again, this is just talking from like a first time playing experience, so obviously we all know they're making it out. But it had a threat of danger. Oh, I wrote this down. What I really enjoyed, one of the parts I thoroughly enjoyed in this, and I can't remember if it's in the original, but the part where you play as Ashley with the blue flame. Oh, again, a lot of talking. Great part. I thought it was like actual horror because you can't fight back. It was like you had to do puzzles, you had to sneak around, and you couldn't be caught or you would be killed. That was great. And you could feel that kind of like fear. So I enjoyed that. That was one of the parts I like really enjoyed. I think the characters as well were memorable. Obviously Leon. Sorry, give me one moment. Oh man. Obviously Leon, who's been a staple in the series, I think, alongside Chris. Ashley is memorable. I think people are gonna remember her just from the memes, the bitch dumpster, and the all the like, help me Leon, help me Leon, help me Leon, all that. Like, she's only been in this one game, but I feel like so many people who don't play Resident Evil know about her the same way they do like Chris and Leon, even if it's just from memes or whatever. Obviously you also have Ada again, who's Chinese wife. What more can you ask for? Her role in this game, like, I know she's like working for Wesker and it's like, oh, a big reveal. It seems kind of unneeded, purely because she shows up, says a few things, helps you out, does this, but you're also kind of just like, all right, it's one of those things where like, I'm glad she's there, I'm glad she's in the game, and she has great like the Leon Ada scenes are always great, but at the end of the day you're kind of just like, what are you doing here? Like, you're just kind of like, story wise probably not needed, fanfare wise and Leon wise she's needed, which is why I think she'll probably be in 9, because I don't think we've had a single Leon game without Ada in that game. Like, they are like hand in hand. Actually, I'd be very surprised if Leon was not in the game. If Ada was not in the game, just because Leon's in it. I mean, plain and simple. Cons for this game. Ashley keeps getting kidnapped, man. Like, she gets kidnapped like 6 times in this game. The first one, you find her, and then she gets kidnapped from you or runs away or something. And you're like, oh, gotta help baby bird, baby eagle. She got away from me. And then you find her again, and she's like, oh, you found me. Anyways, I'm evil now, and I'm running away. And then you find her again, and it's like, listen, we're sticking together. Stop running away. Stop getting caught. And she's like, okay, I got you. And then she gets captured, and the whole altar thing happens. You get thrown into the dungeons. You escape, and you rescue her again. And it's like, just make up your mind. Get captured or don't. But I feel like she gets captured so much in that game. And I get like that's the point of the game is you're rescuing her. But does she really have to be kidnapped like 6 times? And this game definitely felt more like an action game than a horror game. For sure. But it was like I don't think there was really any inventory management. You're given a very good inventory in the beginning, and I do like how they do it by like space rather than like, you know, it's like by like cubic space rather than item space. It's like this gun has 6 spaces, this gun has 12 spaces because it's a big gun. That makes sense. I like that. I guess the only inventory management was like which guns you should have. Because the key items weren't put there and the treasures weren't put there. So the inventory really is just ammo and health. And so it's not really an issue. I think I already talked about how some enemies just felt like they were people. Like you were just going into this village and shooting people. I kind of didn't like how you'd be locked out of areas. So they did it chapter by chapter, and you would have the village, the castle, and the island. And once you get to the castle, you're kind of locked out of the village. And then once you get to the island, you're locked out of the castle. I think I would have preferred being able to go, being able to backtrack all the way back and forth, just because of how many side missions and extras there were. It felt like you were kind of like, and I didn't really realize this until later in the game, where when you get to a certain point, the shopkeeper is like, better check to make sure you don't have any missing things to do. You'd hate to always think, what if, or whatever he says. That was kind of his cue of saying like, hey, if you keep going, you're gonna be locked out of this area. And I should have understood that, but I'm stupid. I'm a dumb guy. So I think being locked out, too much talking. Being locked out really did put like a damper on the enjoyability, because there were times where I was like, man, that looks like a difficult, like I think with the castle fighting like the knight, I was thinking, man, that looks like it's going to be a really difficult enemy. I want to get better weapons. I'm going to keep going until I get a better weapon, and then I'm at the island. I'm like, dang, well, that's not happening. I think that's majority of the notes I have. Like I said, I still have it at S rank. I still think it's one of the greatest. This one just had so much content in it. Like, I feel like if you play Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3 remakes, and you go through it once, for the most part, you won't ever really need to play it again. Like, you could probably get everything in one run. Resident Evil 4, I feel like there's so much that you just can't. You would have to go back, do the infinite weapon, do all that. I do know as well the remakes, remasters have chapter skips, just because I've seen YouTube videos on them, where you can, like, I know, like Resident Evil 4, if you shoot the bell tower, it skips the holdout scene where you have to just survive for however long. I think there's a lot of stuff like that in 2 as well, which is cool. I kind of like the quote-unquote speed runs where you can just like skip complete chapters by shooting something and it makes sense. Fear level, nothing really. During the Ashley scene a lot. During everything else, it was, like I said, it was more like an action game. It was just, you'd have some moments you might be like jump scared by an enemy lunging at you from out of the corner of the screen, but and the Ada DLC, Separate Ways, it was all right. It was a pretty good, that felt like what the B playthrough was. You know, you'd have Leon A and Ada B. That's kind of how it felt. You know, Ada's just kind of in the back doing whatever, and kind of gives more insight. Gives more insight into what she was doing, which was a whole lot of nothing when you get down to it. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I played the original when I was a kid, so nostalgia alone, 4 was great. I even have a Leon jacket with the fur and all that, so fantastic. Great jacket, great game, great characters. Moving on, Resident Evil 5, putting at C. Moving on, no. So, Resident Evil 5 was a whole lot of meh. I thought it was fun, because of, I don't know why that didn't go off. TB2TN. Oh, there we go. Oh. Hold on. TB2TN, thanks for the Twitch Prime sub. I don't know why that didn't go off. Refresh. Oh. Well, hey, not a problem. Anytime. As well as, Resident Evil 5 was a whole lot of meh. There's a whole lot of eh. Also, I'm 75% of the way to completing my goal of 10 subscribers. 2 more subscriptions, and I will be there. Thank you all. Top viewers at streamboo.com, remove the space. No, I mean, Resident Evil 5 was there. I was, my big thing, okay, I'll go through the pros first. We'll start off good. It was a lot of fun with friends. You really have to play that game with people you can have fun with. Shout out to the Super 77. You cannot play that game alone, or at least I couldn't. It's Call of Duty with horrible AI. That's what it felt like. I did like that you could swap the items between characters, and you could pretty much just be like, hey, take this. Hey, hey, I need this. Need a heal. You know, whatever it is. One of the characters, hot lady. One of the enemies, hot lady. It had some cool enemies. It had like the giant bat, the giant scorpion, giant spider, all those things, giant animals. So those were cool. Let's move on to the cons. Like I said, it felt like Call of Duty. It's not horrible, but if you're playing Resident Evil, and especially when you're going through all these like first time, like knowing nothing about the games, it's not what you're expecting. You know, and when you're like, I'm gonna play a survival horror, and then you play that, you're kind of like, I don't want to play this. You can't move while aiming. That was one of my biggest things, is that you're playing Call of Duty, but every time you aim your weapon, you can't move, you can't strafe, you can only do this. And that's it. And that is such like a, like when you're fighting off hordes of zombies and you're fighting enemies that are running at you, and you can't aim and move at the same time, is stupid. That is like, I don't know why that was even in the game, where they're like, let's have it to where if you're aiming, you can't move. Like no game has ever done in the history of ever. Like I cannot think of a single game where when you aim a weapon, your character just stands there and all you can do is this. It's so stupid. That's probably one of my biggest things about this game, where it's like, why can't I move? In the same way that it felt like COD, there were some parts where it felt like Uncharted. And I remember saying this when I was streaming it as well, is you get to that temple area and you have to do all those like temple puzzles, and you're like, I'm playing Uncharted. We're about to find the El Dorado or whatever. Why is all this in Africa? Why are we hundreds of thousands of feet deep in a cave finding temples and flowers that turn people into zombies? Most enemies just felt like they were people. Much worse than Resident Evil 4. Gonna cough again, give me a sec. Much worse than Resident Evil 4. You're playing as Chris in Africa, and at one point you get on a boat and you start spam, and you start just murking natives. It's never explained if they're infected or not. You just assume they are. And it really does feel like you're playing Call of Duty and you're just looking for oil. At one point, there's the big zombie horde, and one of them has a microphone and is going, fight them, we must fight against them. And you're like, I don't think these are zombies, guys. I think these are just Africans opposing the US military entering their country. But that was weird. That there obviously they were zombies and it's a game and blah blah blah. But it was weird that you were like, yeah, I'm just invading their country right now. This is me killing innocent people. And if you watched me stream the game, you'd know I was completely fine with it. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, I forgot about this guy. The main, or not the main, one of the bad guys that was like, he sounded, I think I said this while streaming too, he sounded like the guy that's like, I'm the Joker, baby. Like throughout the entire game, he's just like, That's what you get when you mess with me. And you're like, who is this guy? Zero clue what he did throughout the entire game. Even now, after playing the game, don't know who he was. Don't know what he did. Don't know why we were after him. He might have been the one who sold the stuff to Wesker. Maybe. Couldn't tell you. All I remember from him is him going, I'm the Joker, baby. What do you want from me? I have no clue what the voice direction was that they gave it. Like, were they like, hey, you're going to be playing a clown named Bozo McGill, whatever. No clue. Jill got kidnapped by Wesker, brain controlled, and made to be blonde. Don't know why. I guess Wesker has a thing for that. It was just a very not Resident Evil game. It was very weird. Would I play it again? I don't know. This is probably one of the only ones where I have it, like, probably it would have to be a while from now, and it would have to be with somebody that I just want to not pay attention to the game. Like, it would have to be something where I'm just like fucking around with that person platonically, and that's it. Like, I cannot, I'm definitely never playing this game by myself. I could not see this game being entertaining with like anybody. Like, it would have to, like, you can't play this with just anybody. It has to be like somebody that you already know. Oh my god, I'm talking too much, my throat's growing dry. Because they had it to where, like, they had the open server where like anybody can pop in. I could not see that going well. That would suck. So as a whole, game's it's meh. Let's see what I wrote. For extra notes, I wrote, white man goes to Africa to hunt down natives and steal their treasure. Wesker's plan? Kill everyone because, yeah, that was the other thing. I don't know what Wesker's plan was. His plan was to kill for some reason. I guess. Sorry, give me a second. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember Wesker's plan. I think he wanted to rule the world. Oh, is that what is that the one where it was like, oh, I'm gonna turn everyone into a zombie because then I'll rule all the zombies or something like that? I don't know. It was dumb. That's all you need to know. Moving on. Resident Evil 6. This is gonna be possibly controversial. I'm putting it at B. I'm putting it at the same level as Resident Evil 0. I have heard in the very welcoming and the very non-toxic community, just like any and all communities ever of Resident Evil, that Resident Evil 6 is well hated. I don't understand the immense hate for it. I thought it was better than 5. I still thought it was not that great. But starting with the pros, for one, you can move while aiming You can move. I know this is hard to believe for all of you survival horror fans, but while you aim your weapon, you can move. Oh my, mind-boggling advancement in technology there. Once again, fun with friends. I couldn't see this game being fun by myself, and I could not see this game being fun with random people. Great game to play with friends just to fuck around. I did enjoy the, like, how each campaign is a different plot line that, like, converges with another. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was cool, and that it was complicated, but you also have to remember that Resident Evil is Japanese, and they love to overcomplicate shit, especially with stories. Leon's campaign felt like Resident Evil. The other campaigns did not. I did just write Rat King. I think that's because when I did stream, the Super 7-7 just turned into a rat. Just going. That was a Discord problem. That was funny as shit. That was great. But that's the pros I have for now, is just you can move while aiming, and it was decent storyline. Graphically, it was decent as well. I feel like Resident Evil 5 wasn't. But I also think that was just the time that it was made, where everything had that, like, piss filter over it of just like, oh, we're in Africa, I guess everything's yellow in Africa. And, you know, Resident Evil 6 actually had colors at some points. Not all of them, but some points. It was the 2012 era where everything was like, what's it called? Like mono scale gray or whatever it is. Everything's pretty much gray radianted. So you have like the gray and purples, which you can even see in the little image here. I mean, you can see the filters of like gray, white, and purple, orange, green, and gray, you know, like just the shit the shitty filters they had over them. For the cons, I'd say after Leon's campaign, it really does just wear down. You have, I think in comparison, you have like Leon's at top, Jake's below that, Chris is below that, Ada's below that. And for campaign, it's like Leon, Chris, Jake, Ada. Leon's felt Resident Evil. Chris's felt like Resident Evil 5, where it was like you're playing Call of Duty again. You're like, okay. I think it even felt more like Call of Duty, because you actually had excuse, talking too much. You actually had like 5 AI soldiers with you at all times. Except for like the last, what, two or three chapters of it, whatever it was. So it felt even more like Call of Duty than Resident Evil 5 did. Jake's and Sherry's was alright. It felt kind of like Resident Evil, but not fully. And then you had a lot of weird, like, Jake looking at her naked moments where you're just like, alright, dude, like, you're trying to escape a Chinese facility, maybe save the peep show for later. But I respect it. And then Ada's campaign was just a mess because you had Soldier or whatever who just teleported around with her. Like, she would close a door and he'd be like, hi, I'm on the other side. Oh, it was weird with Jake's campaign, how you had the whole introduction of like Sherry having this regen ability where like they're in a helicopter accident and she's like, you have to take this blade out of my spine. And he's like, all right. He does it, she heals, and that's the only time it's a thing. And it's kind of like, what was that needed? And even Jake's like, why don't they do tests on you? And she's like, yeah, they did. Didn't work. And he's like, okay. So it's like, really, there's no point in having her have regen. They really just made her Wolverine without the claws. I guess it's like, oh, this is how she survives all this stuff. But then how does all the other characters survive it? I don't know. They just do. And I guess it was, they were probably like, oh, we need Sherry and Jake to bond over something. How about having like weird infected blood? That's something they can bond over. It's like, okay. All right. Oh, another con that Resident Evil 5 did well is that you cannot give your partner items in Resident Evil 6, which I thought was weird. You know, you kind of you would give your partner health and ammo in Resident Evil 5, and this one you'd stand right next to them and be like, oh, you're out of ammo? Tough luck. And you're like, okay, well, fuck you, man. For the Nemesis and Jake and Sherry's level, that guy chased you to the ends of the earth. Like, fell in lava, got out of the lava, regenerated from that, got blown up, all these things. Nothing could kill him. You know what did kill him? A bullet while they were holding hands. The power of love killed that man. I thought it was kind of stupid. They should have just ended it on the lava. And that's it. But they're like, hey, he survived lava. You know what he's not going to survive? A bullet to the skull. Why didn't you guys ever try that? Oh, you did throughout the entire campaign? You should have loved each other better. I don't know what to tell you. Threat or fear level, I put get his ass. Because we would just melee everybody. And it was a lot of fun to just beat the shit out of zombies instead of shooting them. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. It was what it was. I'm gonna go get some more water and take a short break. So give me one moment. I'm gonna pause. My necklace is all tangled up. We don't have too many to get more. We do not have too many more to get through. Resident Evil 7 I am putting at, oh man, it's between S and A again. I'm gonna do A. I'm gonna do A rank. I thought it was fantastic. It was a return to formula. You know, it went back to the survival horror. The first person of it kind of adds a more atmospheric fear, where before the remakes would have the like close third person lock. This kind of made it that you're not seeing what's behind you and you're not seeing what's around corners, so it really did have like that fear of the unknown. Let me see here. Going back to the like return to formula, it had like good puzzles. Some that you actually had to figure out a bit, others that were kind of like a bit obvious but still good puzzles. Especially like you had the shadow puzzles where you had to like turn the object to make it look like something else. And then you had what was it, Lucas, the brother. You had like his puzzle room. It had genuine scares, I think, is another thing. It wasn't just jump scares, and it wasn't just, oh, look at this, isn't this scary? It's a picture of something. Like I still remember when I had to grab something from a room. I turn around and you just see the child footsteps. You start going out and those child footsteps are ringing, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. That's scary. I think before I go into complaints, the characters were all great. Each one of the family members were kind of unique in their own way and very just insane and very good, kind of insane. And it kind of goes like that with what I was saying earlier, is that the more this series goes on, the more it's a mutant game and less of a zombie game. And I'd say that this one is definitely there, where the family members are mutants. They're still in control, or I guess not in control because of Evie, but they still are like cognitive people rather than the brain dead, zombie. You did have the goop, the mold creatures, which were scary, but that was another one where as you got better weapons, they were all one shot, and it was less scary because it was just like, oh hey, and so as the game started, you're like, I don't know what the fuck that is, I'm out of here. And that goes along with that like genuine scare, where you're like, that was scary, that was terrifying. Let me see what else I put here. Oh, the main character, Ethan, has my name, Ethan, which makes the game scarier for me, where I'm like, oh, it's like they're talking to me. I kind of hated it for some of it, where I'm like, yeah, you can leave me alone. Keep my name out your goddamn mouth. But it's fine. We're good. I did also like that Ethan was just some dude. He was just like, I just want to get out of here, man. And the environment was great. It was a creepy environment. I think I read somewhere, I heard, YouTube, whatever, that the development team actually went to Louisiana to find like real locations to see like what the environments would be like, with like the swamp, with the forest, with the grass, with how it would have looked. And obviously, being an American and having been to Louisiana, it's very well done, of making it look like a proper swamp without it being like the stereotypical like, welcome to the bayou, there's water everywhere. You're kind of just like, yeah, there's gonna be water on the riverbank. It's a riverbank. But the development team actually having gone to Louisiana, actually doing research to make it look accurate, made the game just as terrifying. I would say that the house itself would probably be on those lists of like unrealistic house to what it looks like in game, how it looks, and then you go inside and it's like a maze with all these different tunnels. It didn't feel like a real house. And especially you had like Lucas's barn area where he had all of his traps was just one of those like, oh, there's a building up here and a vast giant basement dwelling down here. And you're like, okay. I don't think these Louisiana not farmers, but homesteaders would be able to afford a giant basement like that, but you do you. You go ahead. I think as well there was lore in the game about Lucas being a psychopath before being infected, which I thought was cool, that they weren't just like, oh, this disease made them do the killing. Lucas was always that way. I thought that was a very interesting kind of like character plot point. But overall, this game was fantastic. Going back to like the return to formula, it was great. The few, I say few, the few cons. Now I said the characters were great. That is all the characters except Mia, who is not great. I actually, to this day, think Mia sucks. I just, she was pointless. I wrote down here, Mia was dumb and problematic. And then I wrote, my wife's been missing for 3 years and now sends me a message to come and get her. Move on, buddy. And I still agree with that comment that I wrote down approximately 2 hours ago. Move on. Like 3 years and she just goes completely missing. And then I know, like, in the game, Mia's like, and there's another issue I have with her. In the game, what Mia tried to do was record a message, say, hey, Ethan, I know I've been missing for 3 years. Do not come and find me. Do not come and get me. I do not want you to find me. And then Evelyn uses her mind magic to make her go, Ethan, I know I've been missing for 3 years. I need help. Come and get me. I'm in Louisiana. Why did Mia make that message if she didn't want Ethan to find her? Why not just, stay missing? Anybody? It makes 0 sense for her to go, I know I've been missing for 3 years. because I abandoned you and left you without telling you why, don't come and find me. I want to stay missing. Why not just stay missing? But no, she makes a message, and Evelyn changes the message to have her say, Ethan, come and get me. Why would you come and get her? Like, that has to be some good excuse to be missing for 3 years and then be like, oh, by the way, come pick me up. I'm in Louisiana. Hey, sorry, I've been missing for 3 years. Come get me. And I guess it would make sense if she was kidnapped. But he gets there. Watch him, but can't chat. Okay, yeah, you're good. Also, he gets there. He does find her locked in a cell. And her first thing that she says is something like, Ethan, what are you doing here? Did Daddy see you? If Daddy sees you, he's gonna be angry. And my first reaction is, who the fuck is Daddy? Why is my wife, who's been missing for 3 years, talking about Daddy? I'm shooting that bitch on sight. All right, I'm going OJ Simpson on her. And Ethan's just like, what are you talking about? Who's Daddy? What? All right, I'll follow you. If I was Ethan, I'd be like, all right, have fun with Daddy. See ya. Enjoy this little kink cage you got going on here. That's not true. I mean, honestly, if you're in a cage and you're calling somebody Daddy, it's probably some weird, like, sex cult thing where you're being kidnapped. But even still, if something's like that, you go to the police and be like, hey, my wife's been missing for 3 years. She just sent me this video. She's covered in dirt. She's saying she needs help. Let's call in the armed forces. This is probably some weird sex cult thing. They probably kidnapped and raped my wife. Let's get the Coast Guard. Let's get their asses. And then the BSAA would have showed up and Chris would have been like, good work, Ethan. We didn't have to do anything because we just killed them all on sight. Here's your wife back. She was not raped. And you're like, oh, what good day. I didn't have to die. And that's why Mia is one of the worst characters in this game. The freighter segment. Oh, I forgot about that. The freighter segment sucked. Before that, let's skip to the choice you had to make at the end of the game. So you go through this game. You go to rescue your wife, who disappears at the beginning, and then you find her, and then she disappears the rest of the game. And throughout the game, you're getting a call from a woman named Zoe. And she's like, hi, I'm Zoe. I have a deep southern accent, and I probably got a pixie cut. You can tell by the sound of my voice. And you're like, whoa, you sound like my type. And she calls you about like 4 times. And every time she calls you, it's, hey, did you kill my dad? All right, cool. Now go kill my mom. And you're like, all right, cool. And then she's like, here's how to make the cure. You need a baby skeleton, the arm of a toad, and the eyes of a bat. And you're like, I believe you instantly. And she was right. You make the cure. And then you're fighting Daddy. Good old welcome to the family, son Jack. And Zoe's like, use the cure on him. You'll kill him that way. And you do, and it does. And then you get out from the boss fight room, and she's like, what do you mean there's only one cure left? And you're like, you're the one that told me to use it. And then she's like, well, you're gonna have to choose me, the woman who's talked to you on the phone 4 times, or your wife that you came down to Louisiana to save. And you're like, oh my god, what a difficult choice. I choose my wife for some reason, canonically. And then she's like, what? You chose your wife over me, a woman you've called on the phone 4 times? Get out of here. I wish I never helped you go. And you're like, all right, whatever, have fun. Good luck. See ya. Weirdest thing in the world to be like, hey, choose between your wife or this woman you talked on the phone to 4 times. And it's like the game's like, oh my God, this is such a hard choice. How could you choose between the woman that you married and this woman that you met 5 minutes ago? I hope you make the right choice. And then obviously you choose your wife. And then you wind up on a freighter as your wife. You start playing as Mia. And you start finding out like, oh, Mia was a secret agent. She was the one who was like the mom to Evelyn. And Evelyn just wants parents. But she's psychotic. So you tell her no. And then she has a psychotic episode. And then she reveals that when you made the message, you being Mia, made the message saying, Ethan, I know I've been missing for 3 years. I want to stay missing. Don't come and find me. Evelyn changed it to say, Ethan, I know I've been missing for 3 years. I want you to come and find me. Thus bringing Ethan into the fold. Really what we should have done is just become Evelyn's parents. Really from the beginning, what Mia should have done is say, hey honey, my husband that I married, instead of running away and pretending to be the wife of some other man that you don't know, why don't you come with me and help me to raise this psychotic bioweapon? Really, Mia gives off red flags. A whole lot of red flags. It's just you're pretending to be somebody else's wife. You even have a pretend kid with this guy. You're calling other dudes daddy. Really, that's a lot of trust being broken between a husband and wife. So, that's my thoughts on Resident Evil 7. Ethan's quips suck. I also wrote that. And Chris looks like a different dude. Chris looks like a 35-year-old playing like a 55-year-old. Ethan's quips were just like, what the fuck? Oh, holy fuck. You gotta be fucking kidding me. What the fuck? That's Ethan's quips for Resident Evil 7. That's all of them right there. Fear level, actually pretty intense. There's some scary parts. There's some fear. It was a scary game. I enjoyed it. Extra notes I wrote. Let's hear what I said. Mia wasn't worth the effort. Yep. Bra sniff. Because here's the part where you could just rummage through Zoe's laundry. And every time I went into the little trailer, I was just like, for her bra. Zoe Mia choice was weird. Yep. Chris DLC was meh. Yeah, there's the Chris DLC where you fought Lucas, and it was. I don't even think I posted it on YouTube. I think I just let that one die. It wasn't worth it. All right. Moving on. Resident Evil Village. I'm gonna put that at A tier as well. It's going right next to 7. Great enemies. I loved how they were all. So I personally have like a deep love for like European folklore. You know, vampires, werewolves, witches, monsters, all that. Which is what this game was essentially, and again, goes beyond the zombie level and is more into the mutant level. But a great atmosphere. Obviously, you're in a village for a majority of the game. But I liked that you kind of had the 4 different parts. You know, you had the vampire, which was Lady Dimitrescu. And it was this like Victorian castle. You had the hot daughters. You had everything you needed for a vampire. A little bit of blood kink for the blood lovers out there, myself included. God bless. And you had a ton of good puzzles in there. And then you had the doll area, which was horrifying, terrifying. I hate dolls in real life. But that one's, I think that one's supposed to be like a ghost. You know, like she's possessing the dolls, and she plays all these mind tricks on people to make them like have illusions. So I think her representation wasn't supposed to be like a cursed doll. It was supposed to be like a ghost or a poltergeist. And also the fact that like she was invisible, or she made herself look invisible and talked through Angie, the doll. Great character. I think, like, lore-wise, I think fantastic. One of the most, if not the most terrifying levels in the entire series was the doll and the baby, where you have to run from the crying baby. Terrifying. Horrifying. I hated it in a good way. And then you had, was it Mordo, whatever, the fish guy, who was like a creature from the Black Lagoon, you know, like merman person. Very cool. And then you had Heisenberg, which was like Frankenstein. So you had these four houses that were each a representation of like a certain European monster or creature or myth, whatever you want to say. I thought that was very creative. I thought that was good. For prose, I wrote Mia dies in the beginning. So you play, and then straight away you put your daughter to bed, and Chris just murks the shit out of your wife, and you're like, thanks, man. About time. Let's go grab a beer. And he's like, shut the fuck up, Ethan. I'm taking your kid. And you're like, all right, now you've crossed the line. Let me see here. I do like that for the most part, it is a fully explorable map. I don't think you really ever get locked out of an area. You might get locked out of the castle. I don't remember clearly. I don't think you do. I think you can go back, but maybe not. You might get locked out. But for the most part, it is like a fully explorable map where you're just constantly going back to the village and going through, and you're able, kind of like how Resident Evil 4 had all these like extra little side missions you could do. I think it was the same for Resident Evil Village, and you could find like hidden chests and all this different stuff, which was great, which is cool. I think there's a ton I missed playing, which I would definitely go back and replay this game just to like do a full 100% of. Also, it's explained how Ethan survives all of the shit, like getting limbs cut off at the end. Spoiler for the game that everyone's probably played by now. But Ethan's made of mold, and so that's why he can reattach limbs. Makes sense ish. But like the fact that they actually have an explanation, and it's not just, oh, we thought it'd be a cool idea if you could just reattach limbs because somebody would lose a limb in this world. They actually have a reason. I thought that was cool that, you know, they have a reason lore wise. Cons, Ethan's quips still suck. There's the part where Lady Dimitrescu was dying and she was like, curse you, curse your bloodline, curse your daughter. And then Ethan just goes, you're the one who's cursed. And you're like, all right, good one, man. You really got her with that one. and it's after she dies. Like, she says, curse you, all this turns into like crystal and shatters and all that, and you're like, no, you're cursed. All right, well done, you got her. Chris's motive sucks. I wrote that as well. The fact that he didn't just, like, he shot up Mia, took his daughter. The fact that Chris didn't go, Ethan, come with us, you've been compromised, that wasn't your wife, I'll explain on the way, would have solved half the game. But instead, Chris does this weird thing, and I think they changed the voice actor for Chris too. I think it's the guy who voices Carlos in 3, or unless that's 7, I don't remember. But the fact that Chris didn't just be like, bro, listen, I know we've been training you for 6 months, let me explain, this is what's going on, come with us, we gotta move now. You know, like, just like, that wasn't your wife, she's been replaced, come with me, we'll figure this out. We don't know what we, you know, she's after your daughter, we need to ensure your daughter's safety, come with us. Like, a sentence would have fixed half of the. I think it's even mentioned in the game where one of the soldiers is like, we should have told Ethan earlier, and Chris is like, yeah, well. Like, it's like, yeah, well, you should have. Another con I wrote, Mia lives. And then Mia is still a bitch and not worth the effort. Because even like again, spoilers, but the big reveal, oh, Mia's been alive this whole time, Mother Miranda's kept her prisoner. And then she's like, Chris, there's something you need to know about Ethan. I've known for a long time, but Ethan's my special little guy. And then it cuts to Ethan being alive. So this whole time, Mia knew that Ethan was made of mold and dead. And she didn't tell Chris. Like, she didn't go, hey, this is going to be really important. Ethan is probably a bioweapon. I think you end up finding out as well that that's how Mother Miranda knew that the baby was there, because she had a connection through the mold or something. I don't know. I don't remember. Lore-wise, I don't remember. But it's something stupid, and it could have been solved if Mia just had said anything. And I feel like Mia's better in this, because technically the beginning Mia isn't her, where she's like, there's nothing wrong with my memory. I remember everything. I don't want to talk about. Shut up, Ethan. And you're like, whoa, all right, geez, whoa, hey. I guess that was technically Mother Miranda. So you can argue that Mia got better and is not as much of a horrible person as she was in 7. Another con, Ethan dies. Spoilers. But actually dies too. That kind of sucked, because I mean, it was a very touching scene, and he died saving his family, which kind of sucks. Mother Miranda's motive was her motive was that she needed a vessel for her daughter, I think, and so it was like, oh, let me choose this baby, and then I'll separate her in 4 parts with the head, legs, arms, and body, and then I'll summon them for the almighty Exodia, also known as my daughter, which is also not how it works or something. And then Ethan kills her and she doesn't become that. So, but I think that was the only real cons, is just like everybody's motive was just there. Chris should have been better. Mother Miranda's motives were all right. It was just bringing her daughter back. Mia's motives of not telling Chris were stupid. Chris's motives of not telling Ethan were stupid. Ethan's quips suck. Very minor cons, but cons nonetheless. Hey, sound warning. My fear level for this game is but only once. It's funny. a good one. It's a good one I wrote. And that's just because of the doll level. The doll level was terrifying. And then the rest of the game was just like, let's see extra notes I wrote. The doll section haunts me to this day. There we go. I would fuck the vampire daughters with a passion. And I stand by that. Those vampire daughters, they knew what they were doing, and they won. They got me. I want them vampire daughters in my bed. I don't care if they're made of bugs. I want them. And then we'll move on from that, because this next one is Resident Evil Village, the shadows of the daughters of the shadows of daughter Rose. This one, whoa. I'm gonna put at a B. It was there. That's just the mid-tier level. It was all right. It was pointless, kind of. One is that it takes place so far into the future that I think even the developers were like, yeah, the next game isn't like, Rose is like 6 years old in Resident Evil Requiem, or 12 or whatever. So like none of it matters, essentially. And I'm sure in Resident Evil Requiem, there's gonna be something. Leon's gonna be like, oh, this must be what Chris told me about the Rose report. Like how in Resident Evil, I think 5, Chris was like, it's like the Leon report with Las Plagas. Something like that's probably gonna happen. It's gonna be a quick mention. It's gonna be in like the notes section, and that's it. It's gonna be a quick little lore drop, just being like, hey, we didn't forget about the last game we made, and that's it. The DLC is essentially Rose grows up, Ethan and Mia's daughter, and she's wearing Ethan's jacket because Ethan's a cool guy, and she wants to get rid of her powers because she sees them as a curse. So she goes into the midichlorian, or whatever it's called, Minimiset, and has a self-discovery of, wow, these powers are actually pretty cool, I'm gonna keep them. And it was Mother Miranda who tricked her into going to the Minimum. And that's it. And Ethan's there, and he's like, I've been here the whole time, I still love you, I'm your dad, I'm gonna sacrifice myself so that you can get out of the Minimum. And that's the DLC. And she might be more powerful now because she went to the Minimum, but that's about it. And it's the same old story you've heard of that. Oh, these powers are a curse. Actually, these powers are awesome and based. All right. Yep, you win. Good job. That's the DLC. It's cool. It's kind of one of those where it's like, the story was the journey, not the destination, blah blah blah. And it works. It's cool. It continues to confirm that Mia is a terrible person, because Chris is her guardian, not Mia. I think somebody said that Chris took over as her guardian to raise her as a bioweapon, and Mia couldn't say no, but it's also like, that's her daughter. And I'm sure if you went to court or any kind of law thing, you could say, hey, I don't want my daughter to be raised as a weapon. I want to raise my daughter as my child. And also, Mia raised Evelyn. Mia was Evelyn's mother. So you think that Mia couldn't also be into this military organization to raise her own daughter? Despite, like, having the military training that Mia has had, she can't also become a member of the whatever it was, BSAA or Neo Umbrella, whatever they became, to raise her daughter? That it makes zero sense to me, and I feel like it's Mia just going like, yeah, you can take care of my kid, and especially because she doesn't have a husband anymore. Mia's single. She doesn't have to be like, oh, I can't join the military because I have to be with my husband who I love. So the fact that Mia has no custody or hearsay of what's going on with Rose, kind of stupid, kind of dumb. Even in lore reason of her being a bioweapon, Mia raised Evelyn, a bioweapon. She can't do that again with her own daughter? So that's why DLC is kind of dumb. It goes again to what I'm saying is that Mia sucks. Ethan should have married better. Ethan should have married one of the vampire daughters, let me tell you. But yeah, I mean, DLC was a DLC. It's what you would have expected. The village itself, great, fantastic. What else did I write? I just wrote DLC is not important at all. Quote, I want to get rid of these powers. Never mind, I'm keeping them. And also my dad is still dead. That's about it. Still fun though. Now, for the last Resident Evil game I played on stream. Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights. S tier. It is perfect. For pros, it is. I wrote everything. Cons, I wrote nothing. And fear level is extreme. One of the scariest Resident Evil games I have ever played. Nothing will beat it. I don't think Requiem will be as scary as Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights was. And this was peak Resident Evil. You had the locked camera angles, right? You had multiple different monsters, not just zombies, even though zombies were in the game. You also had ghosts. You also had slime people. You also had fish people. You had everything that a Resident Evil game needs. You had an all-star cast. You had Tim Curry and Don Knotts with Frank Welker and Scott Ines as Shaggy. Just a truly all-star cast. I'm guessing Great Elise, Great Griffin. You had limited ammo. You didn't even have an inventory system, right? You just had to survive. That's how good it was. So Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights, S tier. Number one, right up there with Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4. So dumb. That's my final list, though. Truly, like a great series. I would absolutely play this series again all the way through. 5 and 6 would be rough, but all the way through, I would play every single one. Let me get this out of the way real quick. Let me just. Oh, I can't. It won't let me. Oh no. Oh no. I can't drop it somewhere else. Oh no. Okay, it's staying there. I will do this. Oh man, there's my official Resident Evil tier list. Oh, and there's the joke. All right. I'm gonna do some final comments now, just to get this going. Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's my final tier list. Obviously I thought I'd be able to take Scooby-Doo away, but oops. It's a great series. I'm actually really glad I fully got myself into this series. There's still a ton I need to play. I know there's like Code Veronica and Revelations and all these other like kind of side games, but not side games. I don't know if I will, to be honest, but a great series throughout. I probably won't stream tomorrow because what I'm gonna do is play Resident Evil 9 on release. As soon as I get the chance, I'm going to stream Resident Evil 9 and start playing that. I'm very excited to play it. I do want to talk some of my like personal theories so that I can just say I called it, I got it right, screw all of you. One, I'm gonna talk about let me real quick let me actually do this. Let me change it to this. Let me just do change title. All right. Probably just go for another like 30 minutes, maybe a bit longer, but main theories I have. So I've looked up almost nothing for this game. I've only watched like the official trailers and that's it. I don't want to be spoiled. I don't want to what's the word? Yeah, well, I guess that's, I just don't want to be spoiled. I want to know anything going into it other than what the trailer tells me. Hell, I probably kind of would have wished not to be revealed about Leon, but then they put him on everything. And I think that was kind of forced. I don't even know if they wanted to do that. They probably were still going to, but I remember it got leaked, one of the cover art of him on it, and then like 2 days later they were like, oh, by the way, here's a trailer with Leon in it. It's like so one theory I have, like I already said, I think there's gonna be mention of Chris with Rose. There's gonna be mention where it's like, oh, there's the Chris report, you know, says the Redfield report says that there's a 12-year-old bioweapon he's training, or whatever it is, however many years it's been. I think Ada's gonna be in the game. I think I feel like there's gonna be a ton of mention of original characters, like any of the characters that were in 1, 2, or 3 are most likely going to be mentioned, like Carlos, Jill, Rebecca. I think Sherry's in the game. I think she was in one of the trailers, or maybe Rebecca, I don't know, but I think Sherry's going to be in the game. It'd be cool if Jake was mentioned, especially because it seemed like Jake and Sherry were gonna be the next Leon and Ada, ish, kinda, you know. But I can almost guarantee you Ada's gonna be in the game. I can almost guarantee you Jill and Claire and Carlos will be mentioned at the least, even if it's like you're running through the city and you go through Jill's old apartment. You know, it's gonna be something like that. It's gonna be a small nod. It's gonna be nothing major. But I can almost guarantee there's going to be mention of original Raccoon City people. Chris, Jill, Claire, Carlos. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Sherry and Ada. I think Sherry and Ada, like, I can almost guarantee they're going to be in the game. I cannot see them making the first Resident Evil game with Leon and not Ada even being mentioned. I think what would be funny is if they just said, oh, by the way, Leon's married to Claire. Or, yeah, Claire. Not even Ada. Like, they're just like, yeah, no, the whole reason Leon's been avoiding Ada for the last 25 years is because he's been going steady with Claire since Resident Evil 2. You guys didn't know that? Yeah, they've been married 15 years at this point. I mean, it was mentioned in so many lore drops. I don't know how you guys didn't see it. Well, my God. Oh my God, that one came out of nowhere. I apologize. I think I laughed too much. No, but like I obviously, like, people want Ada and Leon to be together. I think it would be funny if they're just like, one, if they're like, yeah, Leon and Claire have been together forever since Resident Evil 2. I mean, come on, they walked off in the sunset together. Or two, if they're like, yeah, Leon's married to this random chick. You know, Leon's married to this woman named Cheryl. You know? I do have a theory, because I saw this of, like, somebody had either tweeted or did whatever it was, of like the welcome Leon sign in the police department. If they were like, do you guys think these survived? I can almost guarantee, and I'm saying this right now, before the game even releases, there is going to be a part where Leon has to save Grace or save Ada, whatever, and the big bad that kidnapped them brought them to the police station, and as Leon's entering the boss room, you're gonna see those banner pieces spelling out "Welcome Leon" leading into that room. I can almost guarantee you something like that's gonna happen, where they're gonna be like, oh, I just realized my eye isn't working. They're gonna be like, you know, setting that up. I can already see it happening, of them just straight up being like, welcome Leon, as he's going into fight to save Grace or save Claire or save Ada or save whoever. That's happening. I can almost promise it. I can't quite promise it, because I've never I didn't make the game. But come on, it's happening. Besides that, I don't have any like real theories. Mainly because I like I said, I haven't been looking into the game. I haven't been like, oh, at minute 2.5 of this trailer, if you look here, you can see this person's glove, and that glove is the same glove from Resident Evil 3. Well, if you, I don't do that. That's too much work for me. Because I mean, there's the theories that like the monster you see in the trailer is Grace's mom. I think that's not gonna be true. I think it's just gonna be a monster, but maybe it is. I think if anything, there's gonna be some big great reveal that'll be along the lines of like, Grace is immune to the virus and she's the cure, kind of like Jake for 6, where it's like her mom infected her with this immunization, and so really she's the key to solving all of Resident Evil infections ever. We'll see. I do like that in one trailer, it's the concept that the zombies haven't lost like all cognitive ability. So like some of them still remember being human, and they like act out their daily chores as humans, which would kind of suck. Besides that, like, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see how this game goes. I want to know how open world it's gonna be. I know it's probably gonna be like the others, where you get to a certain point, you know, you're gonna have I think one of them's like a hotel. So you have like the hotel section. And then you'll probably have like a small city section where it's like the police department, kind of like what Resident Evil 3 was, where you have like the police station, then you have all these like small little buildings that you can go in and out of real quick. And then you'll probably have the office from Resident Evil 2, or the lab from Resident Evil 2. Like, I can see the lab being fine. Well, I guess not, because it exploded, didn't it? That was yeah. Maybe not. But you'll probably explore the remnants of the lab. And it would be interesting if, like, William is still alive. Sherry's dad. If, like, after the train blew up, and, like, if he's still alive or something, or if Nemesis is still alive. I think that would be interesting. I don't really know, like, because I haven't been looking into it. I don't really know how much they can really do with raising the stakes, because the city already got nuked. But it is interesting that even though it's been nuked, there's still a ton of zombies running around. And so I want to know if they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we put up a perimeter around the city, and so there's just this fence that's always keeping zombies out. I have zero clue, and that would be interesting to see how they deal with that. I did see a couple of people saying like they want the game to be fully open world. You can explore the whole desolated city of Raccoon City. I doubt that's happening. I don't think this is gonna be like Fallout 4. You know, like I think it's gonna be the same as every Resident Evil game. You're gonna get 3 sections that are big open sections, and that's it. You're gonna get the hotel, probably the police station, or a small city segment, and then a lab of some kind. A lab or a warehouse of evil mastermindery. But I can almost guarantee you Ada's going to be in the game, and I can almost guarantee you that the welcome Leon sign is going to be used with Leon approaching the fight. A fight. I also know that you can change between first person and third person, which is really cool. I think I'm going to do what every single other person playing this game is going to do, which is first person as Grace, third person as Leon. I honestly think that's what the developers did, like wanted, when they're doing the first person, third person. Mainly because Leon has only ever been in third person games, obviously, because first person is new. But they say that first person is recommended for the scary elements of it, the horror elements. And I have a feeling that the way the game is going to go is that the Grace segments are going to feel like 7 and 8 with horror, puzzle solving. And then the Leon segments are probably going to feel like 4, where it's just more like action-y, look at all these cool backflips I can do with a few quips. Which we've already seen quips from Leon where he tells a doctor with a chainsaw I'd like a second opinion. Peak Leon response. But for the most part, I think I don't know. I cannot think of any major theories because I have avoided looking into the game so that I do not get spoiled. People, I mean, I know like Leon is supposedly infected. Not the first time he's been infected in a game. And I know that, I think there's something mentioned about like there were 6 survivors of something, and I think that's from one of the side games with Grace's mother in it. I think it was, if that was Resident Evil Survivor or something. I think that's what it mentions. Could be mistaken. I think it would be very bold of them to kill off Leon. I think if Leon, I think if they kill off Leon, it's gonna disappoint a lot of people. And Resident Evil as a whole does have pretty happy endings. Like, not counting 8. That was a pretty depressing ending. Most of them have good endings. Like, most Resident Evil games are like, we all made it out. We killed the zombies. We did it. Go us. So I can't see them killing off a main character. You know, the Resident Evil is not a depressing series. Oh. There we go. So I don't see him doing it. But who knows? I could see them killing off somebody. I mean, maybe Grace's mom is still alive. I could see her sacrificing herself to save her daughter. And I could also, I could see Leon sacrificing himself to save Grace. But I feel like it's going to be in the same vein as Ada sacrificing herself at the end of 2, where she drops down and then it's revealed, oh, she's still alive. But we'll see. There's an ad coming up, so I think I'm going to end it within the next 5 minutes. But here is my official ranking. Oh, not that one. That's it. That's my official ranking. Appreciate y'all joining. And like I said, I'm not streaming tomorrow. I will stream next when Resident Evil 9 releases. I actually took days off work. Not specifically for this reason, but because of that, I will be playing Resident Evil 9. Streaming it when it releases. I'm very excited. Cannot wait. And so I don't want to start any other games, and there's nothing I can really do that comes to mind where I can just do one day of streaming for it. That's kind of what this was. So when Resident Evil 9 comes out, I'm going. I don't know if it's going to be at midnight, but I am going to see what happens. Until then, y'all have a great one. I will see you when we play Resident Evil 9 next. Once again, very excited. And I hope all my theories are correct, because I am always right and I am never wrong. That being said, y'all have a good one. Thank you for joining for my ranking, and thank you for hearing me ramble on for 2.5 hours. Y'all have a good rest of your day.